Talk more about
That
that, like getting a hold of your addiction, and how did you really know? Because drinking is such a normalized thing,
it's
and
crazy.
drugs is another thing too.
Yeah,
It's different. It's like a little bit more taboo. Like people are like, don't do drugs.
yeah.
But drinking is such a social thing. Like, how did you figure out it was a problem? Was it other people telling you? Was it you felt out of control? You mentioned feeling like a slave to it.
Yeah. I think I think it's really important to understand that, and I'd like to help to break down the stigma of addicts because
Mm,
it's not really our fault. It's like it's like a it's like you're pre-conditioned for that, and it's a weird world that we live in when people are like pumping. They're like, drink this, Corona ads or whatever. It's like drink this thing, and it's like can party on the beach with girls in bikinis, and like all that or whatever it is. You're like pumping basically.
like an endorphin pump. Yeah.
Yeah, you're like basically pumping like poison on the masses. It's this crazy thing, and I have no
Mm,
problem with anybody that drinks. It's fine, but like for me, it was like this. It was like an ideology too. I had many heroes that were. It was really an ideology that really kind of got me into it at first, and then the way it made me feel and the way my body metabolized it. I mean, I could drink anybody under the table. Like I'm a tall, skinny guy, and like I would put like gigantic Samoans. They'd be like, dude, how are you still going? And I lived in this like lonely world where I'd always be the last guy up at the party.
mm,
People would just be throwing up. And I just had this innate ability to do this thing, which became a curse.
mm,
And, and so that's the whole thing. It's like, even with your father, it's like you addicts, like they have like no choice.
mm.
Once you put that thing in your system, it's game on, or game over, I should say. You know what I mean? Like, um, and they're really just self medicating, and and um, they need it, so to speak. And so it's when I deal with I help newcomers into sobriety, and I know that I can separate the person from the disease. Basically, I know that if they're on it, that I'm not even talking to them, and whatever actions that they go through, it's not even who they are. I and some people I'm very close to that I help, and I know who they really are, and I'm and it's okay, and I wish there was a way to like I could wave a magic wand over them to show them how I feel. When you're in it, it seems like there's just like no way out of it. You know what I mean? Like when I was in it, I was like suicidal at certain points. It really turned on me, and I just couldn't see any way out of it. And the thing is that with work and with I don't need to be bringing the God thing all the time, but with some belief of some higher power, whatever that means to you, if you can like unload that burden to that entity, whether it's the waves, Jesus Christ, God, Buddha, whatever it is, it's just whatever is for you specifically. Then there's ways that you can get out of it. And the interesting thing is like, I went so long with it, and now I never think about it until just
Mm.
now. Today was the first time I thought about it. When back in the day, it was like all I thought about all the time, and I needed it, in order to like live. And now, because of tools that I've gained, and just I built a life that I absolutely cherish. Even when I get into super stressful situations, it doesn't even come to my mind. I have all these other things that I do to cope or to move forward in difficult situations, rather than resorting to, drinking and using. And
Like what? Like what? How have your coping mechanisms changed?
um, yeah, well, like I have community, right?
Mm.
So they say if you want to change something, you got to change everything. right?
Mm.
So I don't really hang out with the same people I used to hang out with, which were like drinking buddies and, people who smoked weed or did coke on the weekends or whatever. I don't really do any of that stuff. My community is different. The people I hang around with are different. And a lot of my friends are sober. So and a lot of them aren't. But I have people that I call, you know what I mean? And I that help me get through this life together. And I pray, I meditate, I do opposite action, right? I have a very good like support system.
What is opposite action?
Opposite action is like it's like if you're feeling one way, then you do something completely opposite of that thing. So like if you're, like for instance, I was in New York and I was super stressed out. I was having this editing software issue, and then I called this lady, Auntie Tara. Shout out to Auntie Tara. She's an amazing angel lady, and she was watching our kids. She was babysitting our children, and she said, "You just gotta dance, baby. You just gotta go and dance, and you just gotta like just dance like nobody's watching you." And you know what? And so instead of like being closed down and like freaking out about something, you know what I mean? And back in the day, I probably would have like smoked a joint or like, drank. I just got up in my room, put on my music and danced, and I danced it away. And I said, and I tell myself things like, where are your feet? They're on the ground in the free world. You're not in prison. Where are you right now? You're in New York City, you know, getting paid to do the thing that you love. You have 2 beautiful children. You have a beautiful wife. You come from a beautiful family. The future is so bright. You have all these amazing things that you're doing. Like I have to like, reaffirm myself and like understand that, I can still walk, talk, see. I do gratitude lists. Every time I feel crappy, I do a gratitude list, I can breathe. I can see. I live in Hawaii. I'm alive. My kids are healthy. You know what I mean?